They say that if you want to know Italy, you should look into a family known as the Loyal Family of Italy, the Agnelli family.
If you want to know about Italy, the best person to go and see is a man who owns 25% of all companies quoted on the Italian stock exchange. He owns Juventus Football Club. He owns a couple of big papers out here. He owns Sestria Ski Resort, and on top of all that, he owns, and I mean he privately owns, Fiat, Lancia, Alfa Romeo, Maserati and Ferrari. If you want to know about Italy, get suited up and go and see Giovanni Agnelli.
But today we want to talk about Edoardo Agnelli, the son of Giovanni Agnelli, who as the heir to this huge fortune had a very strange life. He was even deprived of his rightful inheritance, and in the end his death remains mysterious. So let's take a look at his life, which I'm sure you will find interesting.
The wealth of the Agnelli family is so extensive that the Italian media often refers to them as the royal family of Italy. Their assets include the automobile factories of Fiat, Ferrari, Lamborghini, the Juventus Club, industrial plants, and several private banks, just to name a portion of the Agnelli family's capital. The sole heir to all this wealth is none other than Giovanni Agnelli's son, Edoardo Agnelli.
Edoardo was always an avid reader, constantly moving from one library to another in search of more knowledge. One day in New York, he came across a book called the Quran. Curious, picked it up and started reading a few verses in English. He realized that these words couldn't be written by a human. So he borrowed the book from the library and studied more and more and more. And eventually he converted to Islam.
From a young age, Edoardo was raised by his family to oversee the vast wealth, and he indeed displayed a natural talent for it. However, aside from his business pursuits, Edoardo had other interests, such as reading and spending time in the library. During his early youth, he came across a unique book. It appeared that by reading this book, he had discovered another world. Edoardo's family was Jewish, and they did not approve of this development. As a result, his father deprived him of his entire wealth to the extent that Edoardo didn't have any money for a taxi. But these matters no longer held any importance for Edoardo. Now, Edoardo was seen in parts of the world where no one might have imagined.
Edoardo traveled to Iran several times, where he met with Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. This meeting had a big impact on him. After that, Edoardo's father no longer saw him as a potential heir, but he couldn't simply dismiss him. This was when the media took advantage of a false accusation against Edoardo, claiming he was involved in drug trafficking. Although the accusation was never true, it was used to disqualify him as an heir, and instead his cousin was chosen. And Edoardo did not protest. However, after some time, Edoardo's cousin died from illness and cancer. So, new meetings were held to decide the heir. In the end, Giovanni's grandson was chosen, even though he was actually the son of Giovanni's daughter and even didn't have the Agnelli last name. This time, Edoardo protested the decision and couldn't accept it, but he knew that his life could be in danger.
During a live television program on the Italy News Network, breaking news is announced to the host. Edoardo Agnelli has tragically fallen from the top of a bridge and lost his life. Reporters swiftly rush to the scene, and Edoardo's father arrives via his private helicopter. At the beginning of the Italy versus England football match, the players observed a minute of silence in respect of Edoardo Agnelli's passing. In the Italian media, Edoardo's death was reported as a suicide. However, the truth was quite different.
Edoardo's death was very mysterious, and to this day, the full truth has not been revealed. If I were to go into the details, it will be a lot to say. I hope you enjoy watching video, and if you really like the content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you're really curious about this man, you can use the link video below to this book, Edoardo, A Passenger from Rome, which tells a lot more about Edoardo and his life, and if you really like, you can purchase it. I also recommend 2 other videos with a great story, which I'm sure you will find interesting. Until next video, take care and goodbye.